Welcome to USA News Today. Please subscribe and check notification box to get all breaking news alert and latest updates on hot cases.
Says the border crisis is about criminals and gangs. His administration says it is about families and children. Faced with rising numbers of migrants at the southern border, President Trump has regaled supporters with increasingly apocalyptic warnings of an invasion populated by criminals with face tattoos who look fearsome enough to be fighting for the Af. Some of the roughest people you've ever seen, Trump declared in a speech to the Republican Jewish coalition in Las Vegas last month. But on Wednesday, in an emergency plea to Congress for $4.5 billion, his administration described the migrants as vulnerable families and children whose dire situation requires the resources to sustain critical and life-saving missions. Immediate emergency action is required to safely, securely, and humanely process and care for this at-risk migrant population, Russell T. Vaught, the acting director of the Office of Management and Budget, wrote in the emergency request to lawmakers. The sharp dichotomy between the president's rhetoric and the tone of his aides reflects how they are waging a battle on separate fronts, one political and the other operational, as the administration struggles to deal with the mounting humanitarian crisis at the U.S. border with Mexico. Trump, seeking to consolidate his conservative base ahead of his re-election campaign, has escalated his attacks on the migrants as dangerous lawbreakers intent on exploiting U.S. asylum laws. In the president's telling, lawyers coach the migrants, most coming from Central America, into making false claims that they face political persecution and are fleeing their homelands for their safety. They abuse a lenient system, he claims, to game immigration judges into letting them stay. I am very afraid for my life. I am afraid for my life, Trump said at a rally in Grand Rapids, Mich. in late March, mimicking a hypothetical migrant. And then I look at the guy, he looks like he just got out of the ring, he's a heavyweight champion of the world. It's a big fat con job, folks. Trump, who launched his presidential campaign in 2015 by referring to immigrants from Mexico as rapists, has long sought to paint migrants as dangerous. He has inflated the number of violent crimes committed by undocumented immigrants and highlighted sensational murder cases during a primetime Oval Office address in January. Critics said the rhetoric offers Trump cover for pursuing hardline, unilateral actions, such as his declaration of a national emergency in February to divert federal funds to build a border wall. In recent weeks, Trump and his top domestic policy advisor, Stephen Miller, have set their sights on dismantling the asylum system in a bid to dissuade migrants from coming and speed up deportations of those already here. This week, in an executive memorandum, the president instructed the Departments of Homeland Security and Justice to develop regulations to charge asylum seekers fees and deny them work permits as they await their hearings in immigration court. The asylum program is a scam, Trump said in his Las Vegas speech. How stupid can we be to put up with this? Trump's continued portrayal of the asylum seekers as somehow gaming the system is completely inaccurate, said Gregory Chen, advocacy director at the American Immigration Lawyers Association. In fact, most of the people who come here have very little, if any, knowledge of our legal system and what asylum even is. Chen argued that lawyers help facilitate the legal proceedings, suggesting that migrants are more likely to show up for court hearings if they understand the process and are better prepared to present documents in support of their claims, avoiding potential delays. The number of migrants who have applied for asylum has soared over the past half-decade, as immigration patterns have changed. Under U.S. laws, Central American families with children cannot be detained more than 20 days, and most are released into the country as they await their asylum hearings. A process that can take more than a year because of court backlogs. Last year the U.S. Border Patrol apprehended 248,690 items trying to enter illegally. That was a record. And, of course, that number does not include those who slipped across our borders and eluded capture. You can expect bigger numbers this year and for as long as the asylum loophole remains in place. Experts predict an especially large jump in the number of economic migrants from Asia. In the past, what most alarmed Americans about autumns was the possibility of terrorists sneaking across the Rio Grande undetected. We have scant evidence of that happening. Indeed, over the last few years, we've seen very little successful terrorist travel across the border or through the ports of entry.